I am going to tell you guys a story, and if I'm being completely honest, I have been putting off making this video for a little while. Not because I didn't have anything to say on this topic, but because this experience hit me a lot harder than I expected it to. So earlier this year, I decided I was going to host my very first plant sale, right? Now, let's be clear, I've never done a plant sale before, ever in my life, and I always start way more plants than I need for my own garden. So every year, I always end up giving extra plants to my friends and family, co-workers, whoever wants them, right? And this year I had this grand idea that I was going to do this giant plant sale, right? And when I say grand, I mean like $5,000. I somehow convinced myself that I was going to make $5,000 off my very first plant sale. And I know when I say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous, but I mean, yay me for being optimistic, I guess. Hear me out, because it all made perfect sense in my head. Let me just back up for a little bit. So first things first, why did I even decide that I wanted to do this giant plant sale, right? I have this she shed, right? It's my bitch barn. It's what I like to call it. This is exactly what I am recording in right now, and I've been trying to eliminate debt where I can. And so I was thinking, well, why don't I try paying off what I owe on this little she shed and get rid of this payment? So I started kind of brainstorming on ways that I could make extra money, and plant sale, boom. I already grow extra things. I already have my greenhouse. I already have grow lights. I have experience starting from seed and growing plants. I love to garden, so why not? I had everything planned out, right? I wasn't just going to wing it. I decided what I was going to grow. I have different varieties, and I had ideas for what I was going to do that I haven't seen done in my area yet. I wasn't going to do just individual plants. My big idea, my big money maker was going to be the kit. So I was going to do like a salsa kit, an advanced kit, a beginner kit. It'd be super easy. Someone would order what they wanted. I'd fill it. They would get an easy pre-made garden for them. All they would have to do would be to put them in the ground, and it would be easy money for me. Made sense. I thought it was a genius idea. I kind of had an idea of how much that I needed to plant, and I, of course, started more accounting for plants that just didn't make it, dead seeds, you know, whatever. Sometimes seedlings just don't survive that first baby stage, I guess you can say. They're super sensitive to heat and light and cold and things like that. So I made sure to start extra. By the time everything had been up potted and was ready to sell, I would have enough to fill these kits, right? And I had visions of a bunch of people showing up at my house, buying entire gardens at once. I thought that I had it all figured out, and I honestly don't know how many plants I ended up with. I apparently am really good at growing, because I didn't have very many plants die on me until later on, and I'll get to that. And at first everything was going really good. You know, I had shelves in my greenhouse. Everything was all nice and organized. I would be able to go out there, and it was nice and peaceful for me. I would spend, you know, the morning taking care of them, and I would check on them when I came home after work, you know, rotating the trays, making sure everything was getting the proper amount of sunlight, that everything was appropriately wet but not soaking. Everything was growing really, really good. And then when the time came to start up potting things, obviously I had to use more trays, and the trays took up more space, and so my greenhouse started filling up pretty quickly. So I would just reorganize them as best I could, pretty much fitting them in every nook and cranny that I possibly was able to. And then after I could no longer keep reorganizing to fit everything in my greenhouse, I started moving everything into my little she shed here. This was my overflow area. I had the grow lights, so I brought the grow lights in here to make sure they were still getting enough light. I had fans in here. I have windows, so it was easy for airflow, and it worked out. And when I tell you, the more my plants kept growing, and of course, the more up potting I kept doing, the more plants ended up coming out here. And when I say that every inch of this little she shed was covered in plants, I am not kidding. I mean, I brought the shelves out here. I was using all the vertical space that I could. I had tables in here. I literally had everything. Like, I had a tiny trail to walk through to water. That's how many plants were in here. At this point, I was feeling pretty confident. I mean, it was funny. I thought it was hilarious how many plants I had. I wasn't really overwhelmed or anything. I was pretty proud of myself growing that many. I had never grown that many plants before. As it started getting closer to springtime and the nicer weather was coming, I started putting myself out there on Facebook, my personal page, sharing in groups, kind of letting everyone know what I had planned with the kits and what I was thinking, and showing all of my starts, trying to kind of plant a different type of seed, if you know what I mean. So when people were ready to fill their own garden beds, maybe they thought of me, like, hey, let's buy from her. She has this sale going on, this deal. Like, we can just buy a box and have everything we need to grow our garden this year. And I had a little bit of interaction on there, not a ton, but I wasn't super worried about it because, like I said, I was just kind of trying to plant seeds in their heads, like let everyone know, the community know, a heads up that what I was doing. So it was nowhere near to start selling them yet. Everything was going according to plan. I was on track for the sale. I was letting the community know what I was doing, and then my tomatoes happened. I had put them outside to start hardening off one day when I was at work. We got this crazy windstorm, as we do here all year long. It's not even in the spring, and it was so strong that it literally snapped my tomatoes in half. So bam, 50 tomatoes gone just like that. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay. We're just going to roll with it. Well, yes, I was disappointed, but I had accounted for some losses. Now, I had already spent all that time and energy, you know, up potting them. They were decent sized tomatoes, obviously, that like, but I had accounted for some losses in the early stages. It just happened to like come later. As a few more weeks went by, you know, as I'm up potting all these plants that are growing fabulous, and I'm putting them in my barn, I'm filling up my barn, my greenhouse is full, and this is the point where I started getting overwhelmed because I realized that a lot more plants made it than I was anticipating, and I no longer had the space for everything, so I was getting a little bit overwhelmed. But I just kept chugging along, you know. I kept posting in the groups, kept posting on Facebook, trying to advertise so everyone would be ready and have an idea. One of the days where I was already feeling a little bit overwhelmed, I did the unthinkable and I started looking online to see if anyone else was getting ready to have plant sales. And lo and behold, I did start seeing a whole bunch. And just to put it out there, I do live in a farming community, so I was expecting other people to have plant sales, but I just figured that there was more than enough space for me to have a plant sale as well. I mean, we have a bunch of like big sellers, like Walmart, Home Depot, like things like that, Bi-Mart, that have sales as well. So I'm like, well, there's no reason why some of those people couldn't buy individually for me instead of from there, you know. Like, I thought my kits would be a convenience for people, and so I thought everyone was going to jump all on top of it, and no one else, still in my community, no one else had done or advertised for those plant kits, so I thought that I had a really good chance of selling a bunch of them. But what happened is, you know, I seen plants that looked better than mine. I seen plants that look worse than mine. I seen plants more expensive, less than mine. But I think what was getting me is there was a lot of interaction on those posts, and there was a lot of people reaching out to them, asking for more information or setting up like pickup times. And I was like, okay, great. Like, why am I not getting this amount of interaction on mine when mine look better, mine look healthier, and mine are cheaper? I'm like, are people just not seeing my posts? Am I not posting enough? Like, I don't know. I was trying not to spam all these groups or my friends on my personal page about this sale I was having. I was trying to do it often enough where people would see it, but not too often to where I was being annoying, if you know what I mean. And I came to the conclusion that, like, obviously I still wanted to have my plant sale, but I was getting so overwhelmed with the amount of plants that I was having to take care of that something needed to change. So I started taking plants to work with me. I started giving them away, trying to just downsize a little bit to make it so I was able to keep up with it. And I loaded up my Jeep, like I stuffed that baby full of plants, and I took it down to my local food bank. They were more than happy to take it. And that really did help take some of the pressure off for those last few weeks before my plant sale was going to be started. And what's crazy to me is even after donating and giving away all those plants, I still had more than enough to have a plant sale, and I still had more than enough to put all these kits together that I had planned. When I had this whole grand idea, I knew I wanted to make a YouTube video about it, and I do have a little clip of me just a few weeks before my plant. I'm at the point where I'm not enjoying it anymore. This isn't fun for me. You know, maybe there's so many maybes, you know, maybe if I would have done less, maybe if I had a bigger greenhouse, maybe if I had more time. But I can honestly say, as of right now, I really don't think I'll ever do this again. I will probably just stick to giving away my extra plants. You know, I figured, oh, well, I'm always giving away plants. I always, you know, start too many and have extras, and I don't mind giving some away, but it was just kind of a fun little, okay, it ended up not being a little thing anymore. I really thought that I was going to be able to make $5,000 off of all of these plants with my kits and the ideas that I had, and the wind we've been having is absolutely crazy. We've had a lot of cold nights that were below freezing. I lost a lot of tomatoes. Right now, that is how my tomatoes look. Those, like, I wouldn't buy those. Why would I expect someone else to buy those? So now I'm kind of in limbo because I probably have like 500 pepper plants, and my idea was to offload all these plants with the kits that I was making, with the salsa kits, the beginner kits, the ultimate kits. Oh, everything you need to start a garden. You can just, here's 20 bucks, here's 50 bucks, and you just have everything. You don't have to go through and pick out varieties or shop the best prices. And I really don't think that those kits are not going to work out. I think it was a good idea. And like I said, there's a lot of maybes. Maybe if I would have done less, maybe if I had lesser ambitions. But it is 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and I am sick of doing this. I am sick of bringing them in and out. I'm sick of taking care of them. I've been coming home on my lunch breaks to make sure it doesn't get too hot because it's so cold at night. It's like 30 degrees at night, and then my greenhouse, even with the door and the window open, will end up being like 110 degrees, having a fan on. Like, it just, my setup is not reasonable for the ambitions that I had created for myself. And I think anyone wanting to sell plants for a profit, you definitely need to consider what your setup is. I really thought that I could make this work, and I did make it work for a very long time, but I've been doing this for months. I've been doing this for almost 3 months now. I mean, I am the pepper queen. I mean, these peppers, some of them are fucking gorgeous, but like I said, a lot of these tomatoes, they look really fucking sad. A lot of the herbs that I planted look really sad. And so now my goal is just trying to off-sell as many of them as I can and try to make the money back for buying the containers, for buying the perlite and the coconut coir and the soil amendments that I've been using and the fertilizer. And I mean, I'll never get my time back. I feel like I've wasted so much time doing this. It was definitely an experience, a learning experience that I will probably never do again. This is not my cup of tea. You know, I really enjoy gardening, and maybe if this was my full-time job or I was retired, it'd be different, but this is a lot of work. This ambition has been a lot of work, and I don't think it's been worth it. You know, I'm pretty sure that my tomato plants, like the ones I'm keeping for me, even those ones look fucking sad. It just is crazy. Here, I'll show you my peppers, though. My peppers look good. There's all my peppers. My cute little gardening sign that I will probably not use. I'll probably just try to sell them all on the internet because I don't even want to have a plant sale anymore. That's how done I am with all of it. But my peppers look pretty good, don't they? Yeah, So as you can see, I was definitely overwhelmed. I was completely over it. If you can't tell by the multiple F-bombs I dropped, you can probably tell by my face. But like I had said, I had already came way too far. I still had to go through with the plant sale. It didn't matter how overwhelmed I was getting with all of these plants that I had started. And the day of the plant sale came, and nobody came. Nobody. Not one person. Here's a picture of me I was sitting there that day in my barn reading a book. And then the next day came and I had 2 people show up. 2. Needless to say, I was really defeated. I remember looking at all of those plants. It was a gorgeous day. Everything was sitting outside. It was all nice and organized. I printed out pictures of all the varieties and I had everything sitting out like it looked gorgeous, right? Maybe I overplanned. I don't know, but I thought everything looked fabulous. I couldn't figure out what I had done wrong to make it so no one showed up. All those hours, all that energy, all that time that I put in to those plants, and nobody came. And I was like, what did I do wrong? You know, did I not advertise enough? Was I not annoying enough? Maybe I was asking too much money, which no, they were really underpriced, but you know, I get it. Life's hard right now. Money's tight for a lot of people. Maybe they weren't ready. Maybe, you know, they're in the same position as a lot of others where like life just caught up with them and they weren't ready for a garden yet. I don't know. But either way, I was super defeated. I was really upset and I could not believe the turnout that I had. Hundreds and hundreds of plants, months of work, months of planning, months of watering, transplanting, moving the trays in and out, rotating, buying supplies, checking the temperatures, hardening everything off, advertising, and 2 people showed up. I was embarrassed. I was defeated. I was frustrated. I felt fucking stupid, honestly, trying to figure out what I did wrong. You know, maybe my prices were wrong. Maybe people didn't want the varieties I had. Maybe what I thought was, you know, obviously wasn't working out. Maybe the kits weren't as good of an idea as I thought they were. Maybe no one knew I existed. Maybe after all that advertising, people weren't actually seeing my posts. I'm not sure, you know, and it wasn't even like growing everything that was hard. Doing the work wasn't that hard. I mean, hardening off, I got a lot of those steps in, taking them in and out. I mean, I was moving them outside in the morning. I'd come home on my lunch break and check all them, water them if I need to. And then at night, I was moving them back inside to make sure they were protected if it got super cold that night or if it was windy, or making sure the animals stayed out of them. It was a lot of work. But you know what? That wasn't even the hardest part. The hardest part was dealing with the feeling that I failed, because this wasn't just some little project. This was months and months of effort. Months of imagining a completely different outcome. And when reality looked nothing like the picture in my head, I took it personally. Like, it messed with my head for a while. And I really started questioning everything around me. Like, I was afraid to make decisions. I was afraid that like I was just going to end up wasting my time, just like the plant sale. Like, well, this might not be a good idea. The plant sale wasn't. Like, I felt like I was wasting my energy, and I was afraid to where to put my energy. I lost my confidence. I just kept chugging along. I had hope like maybe people would still reach out to me. I still did my plant sale the next weekend, but this time, instead of sitting out there waiting for no one to show up, I just advertised saying like, hey, honk when you pull in my driveway. I'm out here wandering around somewhere. And I did have a few more people that weekend. Excuse me. I did have a few people buy the kits. I had a lot of my family and friends buy kits and buy individuals, and I gave them a hell of a deal. I kept telling like, here, let's take, let me give you a few extra. Here, do you want this? Here, do you want some herbs? Do you want some flowers? Like, just trying to push off some of these extra plants, because I had so many. I had more than enough that I was able to like give all my friends and family, anyone that bought anyone that bought things from me, I could afford to give them a little bit extra, and of course I was grateful that they were even willing to spend their money on my plants, even more so than I normally would be, because I was having a hard time selling them. I know some of the people that had showed up that second weekend to buy plants were showing up buying replacements for their own plants that they had already planted in the garden that they had lost because of the crazy weather that we had been having, whether it got cold one night or the wind had been breaking them. And so I wasn't the only one dealing with the crazy weather. You guys already seen my video. I was completely over it and done with all the plants before I even had the plant sale. So after I had 2 weekends in a row of sales and I still had hundreds and hundreds of plants, I wasn't quite sure what to do. I didn't want to just keep having sales every single weekend. I was ready just to focus on my own life and my own garden. My garden was completely planted already, and I just wanted to go out there and be able to enjoy it. I was tired of taking care of everyone else's plants, and I just wanted to take care of mine. I was ready to slow down and just chill with my plants and weed my garden and take care of my garden. And that's when I did something crazy. I posted them for free. I pretty much just said, fuck it one day. I put them all outside and I said, first come, first serve. I know I could have kept having sales. I could have kept pushing online for advertising. And I just decided that was enough. And I was done with it. And what's funny is the moment that they were free, everyone showed up. I mean, those plants were gone within hours. The vision that I imagined of everyone at my house picking up plants did come to fruition. I just didn't make money off of it. They were really excited. They were really grateful. I even had a few people like slip money underneath my trays, which was really sweet. Everyone was really grateful. And I only had one person steal one of my totes. And while that wasn't the outcome I wanted, it did teach me something. People did want my plants. Maybe they just didn't want to pay for them. They weren't ready when I did my plant sale. Maybe they weren't willing to do the drive that day, or maybe I'm sure timing had a major role. The spring weather was kind of crazy. I'm sure economy played a big role in it. People probably couldn't afford it, but as soon as everything was listed for free, they were more than willing to come pick them up. Before I forget, so the grand finale, the outcome of my $5,000 plant sale was $537. That's how much I made. And I'm super grateful for how much I did make. I mean, that's still over $500. I at least got the 5 right. I did have really big ambitions, and even though it didn't work out like I thought it would, I did still learn a lot. I don't know if I'll ever do it again. Honestly, I really enjoy growing things, and I might continue to grow extra and give it away like I had done previously, but I don't know if I'll do another plant sale. And if I do another plant sale, I will not do as many. That definitely was too much. I could see future me doing another plant sale, maybe like a semi-retirement thing when I have more time and more energy to put forth into that big of a scale of plant sale, because right now I just don't have a schedule that allows me to care for the plants, that many plants for that amount of time. And that's okay. I work full time. I have a full homestead. I have all these animals. I have my kids. I'm still doing dinner, and I still have to find time to take care of myself. So if I ever do it again, I definitely won't have some grand scheme with a number attached to it. I do really enjoy growing and starting plants, and while at first it seems like this was definitely a learning process for me. And just because I'm good at growing plants doesn't mean I had the space or time to grow over 1,000. I did help dozens of people this year. All those people that came to my house to pick up those free plants, or the people that got them from the food bank. I was able to help that many more people grow their own food this year, and that does feel good. I mean, even though I didn't meet my goal, I hope they meet theirs. And just because an idea doesn't work out the way you imagined it doesn't mean it was a complete waste. You still learn through the process. I gained a bunch of experience, and I definitely can walk away knowing more than I did before, especially when it comes to plant sales and advertising. If you've seen any of my other videos, I'm always talking about starting small, not comparing yourself, trying to avoid being overwhelmed and building systems that actually fit your life. And I literally did none of that here. I got ahead of myself. I took on way too much. I had the outcome all planned out in my head before I even gave my real life a chance to like weigh in on what I was doing. And I think that's the part that I want to leave you with in this video, that no matter where you are in your journey, you're still going to have seasons that humble you. And you're still going to have ideas that don't turn out the way you hoped. You're still going to have moments where things don't go according to plan, and no amount of experience or education is going to completely protect you from that. But I don't think you should stop trying. It doesn't mean my idea was stupid, and it doesn't mean that my effort was completely wasted. Sometimes you just have to do the thing and learn the lesson so you can be better the next time. And maybe this was just a gentle reminder to give yourself a little bit of grace when something doesn't go the way you planned, because even people with experience still get it wrong sometimes. And that's okay. If you guys made it through this whole video, then that deserves a thumbs up. And make sure you subscribe if you're not already so you don't miss out on any of my other videos. And I will see you guys in the next one.